They say that talking to yourself is a sign of insanity. But I think that's only if you answer back. Right? Right. This is Talking to Myself, an art advice podcast where I use anecdotes from my life to try to make myself a better artist, and maybe a better person. Someone else may also be able to benefit from this, but mostly I'm just trying to avoid paying for therapy. On today's podcast, I thought we'd talk about practice. The dreaded practice. This one is really, really intentional for me. And the intentional is an important word here too. Practice in art is something that is sort of the foundation of skill. I know everyone's met someone, they say they're really talented at something. They're very good at something. They're natural. And there is some evidence that I've seen to back up the idea that some people have natural ability for certain things, but that will never be as good as practice. Someone who's got some aptitude for, say, drawing will never be quite as good as someone who practices twice as much as they do. That's just the way it is. It's a skill like anything else. You have to learn how to teach yourself to see things. You have to learn how to teach yourself to translate things from your imagination through your hand to the substrate, paper, canvas, whatever it is. Those are all measurable, learnable skills that you have to work at to maintain and to increase. And as much as I personally do not like practice, studies and drawing things from life and practicing techniques that I'm not very good at, it is vital. And that was not just for art, obviously. Everything. Practice makes, not perfect. I will never say perfect, but practice certainly makes you better. And that's the best you can hope for, is to get better. Okay, so here's an anecdote from my life about this. This one's kind of fun and embarrassing. When I was in 9th grade, I wanted to try out for the basketball team at my high school. And I've never really been into sports. I don't really watch sports. I mean, sometimes they're kind of fun to watch. I like fast-paced sports like basketball and that sort of thing. Football's okay, I guess. Here in Australia, they have rugby, which can be exciting at times, but it's frustrating when you come from a country that's focused on a game like football, which has a lot more sort of direct action, whereas rugby has more of a procedural developmental action. Like each play builds up to another thing and another thing and another thing. Imagine football with no passing, and then it feels a lot like rugby, which is kind of Also, they've got something here called netball, which is kind of like basketball if there was no guarding and you played on a half court, and every time someone took a shot, everyone else on both teams just stood there and watched. These are my opinions, by the way. If you're an Australian and I've offended your national sports, I am very sorry. This is coming from someone who's not really a sports fan, even though I grew up in one of the areas that is the hotbed of basketball fandom in my country. At any rate, that's probably why I thought basketball would be fun, because I kind of like playing shooting hoops with my friends and stuff. So I thought, I'm going to try out for basketball. And in preparation for this, with no practice, no training, I decided to shoot hoops in my backyard. We had this little basketball goal set up in a little crappy dirt area where it was flat relatively. So I was out there, I shot baskets for maybe 3 hours. You can probably see where this is going. Turns out 3 hours of practice is not enough to make even a mediocre high school basketball team. Surprise, surprise. Especially when you're trying to learn drills, passing skills, how to shoot around guards, things like that, which I had no experience with whatsoever. I don't know why I thought I'd be good enough to get on the team, having never really played basketball regularly against other humans. There's more to the sport than just throwing the ball through the hoop. You have to get in a position where you can throw the ball through the hoop. Suffice to say, I did not make the team. I did end up being the scorekeeper for the team. I don't know how that happened exactly, but that was kind of fun because then I got to travel with the team and never had to play. And I met a few girls there. Those interesting things happened. But I didn't get to be on the basketball team. And it partially was because I misunderstood the nature of practice and skill. Had I been, let's say, a naturally gifted athlete, maybe I could have made it on the basketball team with that little practice. But I'd be willing to bet, had I been a naturally gifted athlete, I would have played a lot more than that in the first place. So it's hard to say. Would that have been enough practice to get me the skills to get me on the team? Or would it just have been an expression of the ability I had already? It's kind of the same thing, really. The bottom line is you can't expect to achieve much without practice. Best artists in the world are not people who paint like 3 times in their life. That's not how it happens. You might get lucky and accidentally express something really profound and something beautiful, meaningful your first time. That may happen. And there are some artists that do that, but it's a fluke thing. They're not skilled artists at that point. And you can't bet on flukes. You really can't, especially if you're trying to make a career of it. Anything that you're planning on setting up a career for, you obviously need to be good at, and to be good at it, you need to practice. Okay, so as always, let me just talk to my future self here for a second. He's a stubborn kid. Hey, dummy. Sorry, I didn't mean to insult you, but yes, you are dumb. Just like you couldn't get on the basketball team with 3 hours of practice, you are not going to be able to be good at painting without painting. Imagine that. You need to make more stuff. You need to do more art. And an important aspect of this is not just do more art. You need to focus on things you don't know how to do. You need to do studies of people, just for instance, because I don't draw a lot of people right now. I don't paint a lot of people. I don't do a lot of human figures. Landscapes, which I never do. Structures and hard body geometry stuff, like vehicles, buildings, that kind of thing. You need to learn a little bit of everything. If you want to be an illustrator, you're going to need to be able to illustrate an idea in a setting. And drawing monsters of the type you draw every time is not going to cut it. You have to learn how to train yourself to do things you don't know how to do. So intentional practice is the most important thing here. By intentional, I mean you need to focus on something that's missing in your repertoire and get good at doing that. You've done it before with hands. You've done it before with feet. You did it with heads and faces for a while, human heads and faces for a little while, but then you immediately just started distorting them into ogres and goblins and trolls and toads, and then you just started drawing animals and nothing but animals to make monsters out of. So, future self, my dear, dear stupid friend, you need to intentionally practice things you do not like to draw. I know it sucks. I know it's difficult, but getting that skill in your toolbox is going to be invaluable. So just do it. Thanks everybody for listening again. Hopefully this advice, this rather pointed advice for myself, can somehow be tempered into something useful for yourself as well. Thank you very much for listening. I greatly appreciate you being here. Special thanks to my patrons on Patreon. You guys get to hear and see these a week earlier than everyone else, and some extra stuff. And you are the shiniest people I know. Till next time, everybody take care. Practice something you're not good at. I think you'll find it useful. And I'll see you next time.